Okay, boys and girls, it did turn out these were fuel lines, because if you look here, this is where the fuel comes in and back out down to your injectors. So the rail is on right here on the both sides of the head on the inside part here. So that was fuel. Thanks, Matt, for pointing that out. So now we need that thermostat housing taken off and this one taken off, which looks like that's going to be a chore. Yes, maybe it comes off with the head too. Probably does, but take that one off first, and we'll figure out whether this one comes off with the head or whether we have to take the accessory drive off now. Now, while you do that, I'm going to start working on these manifold bolts, get the exhaust manifolds off.
Okay. Thermostat housing number 1 off.
And who came up with this design?
Engineers.
Clearly not a mechanic. I don't know how you get a wrench on these bolts. Holy smokes. Let's check this madness out. Get the wrench on it, spin it. Gotta walk it off this direction a little bit to be able to get it the next little bit and repeat. There isn't enough room to get a box end in there either. I guess to torque these, it's kind of a educated guess. Crank the crap out of them? Like, what's the how do you torque these? I bet the book has a special Detroit wrench just for this. Well, Caterpillar got a bunch of them. Special Caterpillar wrenches just for their engine.
Why not?
I mean, holy smokes, what a freaking joke. Excellent. There you go. Okay, boys and girls, Matt and I already did the other side. What we're going to do is we're going to clear the head, meaning we're going to take the fuel rack off. That's this piece here that controls your injectors, both fuel lines, all 3 rocker arms along with the pedestal. The only thing we're going to leave is the push rods coming out of the head. Those are going to come out from the bottom. So first, you don't have to take this off in order to replace or change or remove your injectors. I did have one stuck that was giving me a problem earlier, and I will tell you this, if you buy this tool, it'll go a lot easier. I thought a pry bar would work, and on one of them it did, but one was real stuck. That tool right there made my life a world of difference. Amazingly, after fiddle farting around with it a little bit, it just came loose. So this is held to the head with, at least in this case, ooh, there's one missing. Hey Matt, check that out. The bolt that holds this rack, the lower one is gone.
Oh. That's not
okay,
good.
so that's not good. Hopefully you find that in the oil pan. This comes off, it's just 7/16 bolt. And a lock washer. Set that here on that rag. And then on the back side, it's the same. This one has both of those bolts. And then just take the fuel rack rod right out of the engine. Now the book says you want to bar the engine over until these are basically lined up. You don't want to have one up or low and the other 2 up or down. Bear in mind, this is a 4 exhaust valve head, so it has the rocker arm, the bridge, which pushes down 2 of the 4 exhaust valves, and of course on the other side it's duplicate. I've already barred it over, so we're good there. First we'll take this fuel line off. What I've done is I've made 12 individual bags. This, of course, being number 1 cylinder. In the bag it goes. And what I'll do is I'll remove, or loosen rather, the valve lash adjustment on the push rod by loosening the lock nut. That's one. That's two. And that's three. Found out the hard way, it's easier to take these off with this bolted down than if you go ahead and take that off. Next, you take the rocker arm stacks. That's what I'm calling them anyway. Loose. That off. Now the reason why you wanted that even is so you can kind of pop them over without bending or breaking anything. What I've been doing is sliding one out. Actually, you can do it the other way. Slide one out, pull that off, and then slide the shaft all the way out your rocker arms. At which point I put it back together immediately, drop the bolt through, wipe it down. Matthew is going to stripe the one that's going to be labeled forward. So Matthew would stripe it. I don't know if it's that important to label forward from rear on this, but the idea is to get the mating surfaces to match if I don't wind up rebushing the rocker arms. So now what Matt's going to do is he's going to wrap tape around the threads of the bolt and just keeping the bolts from coming out and then this piece falling apart. Place it in our bag. Now, one thing I noticed about these rocker arms, try to position it better, there's more space here than there is here. The center one for your injector is equal, and this one, same thing, there's more space here on the inside than on the outside. Originally, I started labeling these, then I realized there was, in fact, a difference. So it's going to be an inner and an outer, and as long as you have it in the right cylinder hole, or rather which bank, left or right bank, it'll play out just fine when you go to reinstall it. Now inside there is this bearing material that looks like that bearing material could be pressed out and replaced should you need to. See inside the oil relief hole in there. I don't know how well you guys can see that or not, but that bearing looks like it's replaceable. We'll take our injector rocker off, same thing. Same thing as a replaceable bearing in there. And last one. Notice that bearing has holes in it because through the stack it oils that shaft. Or does it through the push rod? No, it can't do it through the push rod. The bearing has holes in it, which is how it lubricates or force lubricates this joint right here. hope you can see that. You see the oil relief hole in the bearing and in the hole in the casting of the rocker arm itself. Next, we take the injector's hold down tab off. It's like a little locking bracket. Just simply take the nut out, the lock washer, and slide this steel bracket out. Wipe it down, put it in the bag. Now, I should have done this first before I did that. I didn't have Matthew over here. What I wanted to do, there is a forward and a rear. The only difference I want to maintain that is you want the same mating surfaces to ride on each other. I'm going to assume we're going to put valves or reseat the valves in this thing, so it may not matter, but I want them in the same position in case we don't. So what I do is I just simply take them off, wipe them down, and then Matthew will hit it with the masking tape. That gets labeled forward, or just a big F. Put it in the bag. Next one obviously is the rear. Now these heads don't have to be left or right, but they will be marked as such, again, for this purpose. And an R for rear. Now that I've removed that bracket for the injector, oh, that's literally didn't even need the tool. Injector simply just came right out. These are N65s, so it's right there, Reliabuilt N65, and in paint stamped over here, looks like an EC895. I don't know what these numbers mean. I'm going to assume these injectors will be tested and ran or rebuilt. I'm not just going to put them right in and hope for the best upon rebuilding. So what we're going to do is segregate them as to which hole that they came out of. In the bag it goes. There we have a bag with all your rocker arms, your fuel tubes, and your injector. Now, as you notice, one is higher than the others. So we'll turn the engine over until they're even. There we go. Goes, I need a number 3 bag.
Yeah, it goes through the bottom of the bolt.
Yes. Matt points that out too. The oil comes through the bolt holes. I don't know how well you can see that. It goes right through the center of the bolt. Apparently up top somewhere it would be right there at the bottom, right here. That's how it gets through. Okay. Good observation. Okay, boys and girls, so now we're going to start removing the head, like actually take the head off the block. Now, one thing I was thinking about is if I should stamp this head with something so I know the left bank from the right bank. So I'm debating on whether I should do that or not. It makes sense if I do. So I gotta figure out where I want to put that stamp if I'm gonna do that. Probably be a good spot right there in the middle, so it'd be very obvious to see. So I have this little stamp kit for stamping letters and numbers into metal. So this is the left side of the engine, this is the right side of the engine. So I'm going to put right in the face in the front where it doesn't matter. We need an R. All right. H. T. Does it matter? Maybe, maybe not, but it does to me. This way I can put the valve train in the proper side and not have to worry about mix matching parts. So on this side I'll simply do the same. L. E. F. D. It turns out that there is not a disassembly order for the heads, but there is a tightening sequence. So we're just gonna use the tightening sequence and reverse it. This one is head bolt 14.
Yep.
See how much of a gorilla I have to be to take this apart.
I have the ratchet here if needed.
Not terribly. Okay, that's 14. Where's 13?
13 is directly above.
13 is above it, correct? Okay, 12.
12 is front of engine, bottom exhaust side.
Or 7.
7.
Six. Five. Stop. Go. Yep. Get down. Do the cherry picker a little bit up. Stop.
Stopping.
Up. A little more. A little more. A little more. Okay, stop. Parts of the head gasket. Now notice here, these are why those lifters couldn't come out. Okay, these are the lifters. You can take this plate off and the lifters will fall right out.
Okay.
These are roller lifters.
Okay.
See? Excellent. That's just part of head gasket. Again, take this off first. That's probably just really tight. This in the bolt and the one labeled for the thermostat. Matt has me talked into the insanity of lifting this head off by hand. Problem is, I don't have a forklift truck or access to it. It's after hours. And the cherry picker only lifts up so far in and it won't straddle lengthwise. I'm gonna have to figure out a different way to do this when I assemble this engine. I'm thinking of making a modified, think about this, the rotisserie that the Chevelles were on,
Yeah.
that my load bed is on right now for my square body.
Yeah.
If I shorten it and put this block on a rotisserie or a modified rotisserie,
That's smart.
I mean, it'd hold the weight of a whole car.
Yeah.
And I bought the extra heavy one.
It's like an engine block holder.
Right, it'll hold an entire Charger, an old 70s Charger, so it should hold this block and be able to rotate it. Because when you put the head on, you have to have it straight up and down, or you ruin the perimeter gasket. You roll these. Remember we did, now the Peterbilt Orwell, it's an inline 6, it's level. So all we had to do is get the pitch, the front to back level, set it down perfectly flat. This is not the way to assemble an engine.
No.
Not the way it's set up. So taking it apart's one thing, putting it together is a whole nother monster.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna hold it up from sliding off the block.
Okay.
Work that bolt. Now if it starts raising the head, you know, stop. And stop for a minute. Okay, you can't lift it with that bolt in there.
Yeah.
Take it out. And you better get a good hold of that side of that head.
I got it.
Got it? Got to tilt up.
Up.
Got my hand under it. You have it. You got to get your hand under the other side. You got it? Set your side down. Or you want me to go down? Yes, please. And stand it.
That wasn't terrible.
No. A little scary, but you got it done. I do not know what they weigh, but they don't weigh nothing.
So these don't have a head gasket like Orwell or other vehicles, like a regular gas engine doesn't have a head gasket that lifts the head up off the block itself?
No. Orwell has a spacer plate. So there's a gasket, a plate, and then the head gasket, then the head. Remember when we did the projection, you have to put the spacer plate down, and then with the gasket between the spacer plate and the block, bolt it down along with the cylinder liners.
Yeah.
This is not like Orwell in any way. what happens is this here, it moves. It can probably come off. See this piece rotating?
Yep.
This is your head gasket.
Okay.
It crushes between the liner and the head.
Okay.
So this part is the actual head gasket, like you're thinking. It keeps the compression out from going into the water jacket.
Okay.
These little ones here, this keeps the water out of this section here.
Okay.
So the water flows through the head around the block.
Okay.
Now, unlike Orwell, these are dry sleeves. In other words, let's pretend the head was on and you can magically remove the cylinder liner without taking the head off.
Yeah.
Let's pretend, right? You could take the cylinder liner out and not drain the water out because the block, the bore in the block is the water jacket. In other words, you take the cylinder out, what is still inside is the cylinder wall, the bore wall, I should say. It has to be a tight fit or it won't heat transfer from the liner into the block and transfer the heat out through its water.
Okay.
Now a 92 series, this is obviously a 71 series, 92 series had wet liners just like Orwell.
Okay.
This is a dry liner. So that's your head gasket, this is your water gasket, and that perimeter gasket is your oil. Keeps the oil from leaking through. That's why down here you see it's like a oil bath down here with drains. That perimeter gasket keeps it from leaking. Okay. That's how that works. Okay, boys and girls, so now what I'm going to do is start taking the cam followers, or what most people would refer to as lifters. Now these are roller cam followers, and what they do is they're held in by this bracket. There's also a clip on the other side. You can replace these with the head on the engine, but the easiest way is to take the head off and then slide them out the bottom once you take the bracket off. But there's a clip on the top where if you squeeze the clip after you compress the follower a little bit, take that clip out, and then the whole thing will come out through the top. And then ultimately these heads are going to go to the machine shop and get the valve work done on them, replaced if needed, but also Magnaflux to see if the heads are even worth anything. So with that, let's get ahead and start taking these apart. This cylinder head is the left side of the engine, so what we're going to do is position it, or pretend that we positioned it on the engine. This would be cylinder number 1. It's the forwardmost cylinder. Next. So basically it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The first one is number 1. So what I'm going to do is take this bracket off, and then when I label it, we're going to call this A, B, and C. I don't know if I'm going to use these cam followers again or not. The cam does look pretty worn out. It's scored pretty good, but that doesn't mean it's bad. I'm going to have it checked or evaluated. Also, it depends on cost to see what a new cam goes for. I know a spinning part is not the easiest thing to work on. I already have a nice Ziploc bag labeled 1A. I'll put all the hardware in A, and I'll slide the cam follower out. There's your keeper. There's a clip that goes over the top. We'll get that in a minute. Your spring, another keeper I think in the bottom of this. And then the bottom of your push rod, for lack of a better term, and a cup. This will sit in the bag like so. One thing I have to add to it now is the clip. Try and show you this clip as best as I can. Right there on the pliers. Spin her around. Now, I just got to do the same thing 11 more times. But that's all we're going to do today. Next video, we're going to start figuring out how to get the liners out of this, get the bell housing, both sides off the accessory cover and the bell housing. I'm pretty sure we've got the wrong bell housing for a truck, and I don't think I'm going to reuse this. It's possible. We're going to see how hard it is to get. But either way, I'm trying to break it down, all the bare block. That should be the next video. So next one, you won't be here. You'll be helping your aunt move. So family's moving to Texas, include my mother. So that's going to be in a whole different video series one day regarding us going down. But you won't be here. I'll try to do this myself. But I really want to get this block tore down to bare block and get it out to barrels, have it magged, and then find out also what's going on with that crack down there to find out, do we in fact have junk or are we good?
Okay.
I'd hate to have a 1,500 pound piece of iron go to scrap, but
yeah,
could be. That's it.
Will do.
Call it a day. Let's go home.
Will do. Good hustle today.
Good hustle.
Cut it.